Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for. Here for whatever you bring me, getting handled. I answer to no one, I don't need to hassle. Yeah, we ain't never fall back. Hold our ground where we at.
All right, welcome to the Krueger Show, and with us is Dave Softy Mahler. Now we're not seeing Dave. We're not seeing Dave's picture anymore on the screen. Just me, but can we get Dave up there possibly? Do we lose Dave? There we go. There we go. Dave Softy Mahler, KJR in Seattle, 9:50 a.m., 93.3 FM. Look at you guys pimping the FM these days. What's going on, Dave?
Yeah, that was what we call a false start in the YouTube, broadcast TV, radio industry. I mean, really, you trust a couple of idiot radio guys like us with anything that involves video, and there's going to be a problem. So it's good to see it, except for that weird-looking background. That looks like a sold-out Levi Stadium. So we know that obviously was made up. What the hell was that? Was that like for some kind of a fishing convention or a hunting convention or some kind of like Amazon meeting? Because that certainly wasn't for a football game, man.
You know what it was? It was the Trent Baalke going away party. This is why all the Niner fans showed up. All right, let's get into your end of the pool, man, because you guys are the center of the football universe right now. Russell Wilson traded for 5 draft picks and 3 players. Give me your rundown. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, it was bound to happen. I mean, this is what Russell Wilson wanted, right? I mean, I think everyone needs to realize that. And I think that there's a lot of Seahawks fans, Larry, that are actually having a hard time coming to grips with that reality, because you know how hard quarterbacks like this are to find. Everybody in the NFL, and you've seen it with the Carson Wentz thing. You've seen it with the Commanders getting desperate. The Bears made an offer for Russell Wilson a year ago, what the Rams did for Matt Stafford. Teams are desperate for quarterbacks right now. Jimmy Garoppolo, you know this as well as me, at one point in time was the highest paid quarterback in the entire NFL when he signed his original contract with San Francisco. So you don't just get rid of guys like this unless you have to, right? This is like a guy like you or I marrying a supermodel, and then you and I decide to dump her and get divorced. She's got to be a freaking lunatic for you and I to get rid of a supermodel. I mean, look at us, for God's sakes. Faces made for radio, the two of us right here. So think in your mind's eye about how bad things had to be for the Seahawks to actually agree to get rid of Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson wanted out, man. He did not want to be here anymore. This is not on the Seahawks. I'm sorry. You can argue and you can bitch and moan and whine all you want about what drove Russell Wilson to get to this point, and that's fine. But Russell Wilson did not want to be a Seahawk anymore. He wanted to move on, and that's why he's a Bronco right now, because there's no way Pete Carroll trades a happy Russell Wilson. He's 70 years old. There's not a chance in hell Pete Carroll wants to start over and rebuild with a younger quarterback. So I just think Seahawks fans and everybody around the NFL has to understand that. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of people that are criticizing Pete Carroll, criticizing John Schneider. For what? You think they wanted to do this? You think those guys woke up one day and said, hey, here's an idea. Let's trade a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. Yeah, that'll get us back to a Super Bowl. So stop with the bull crap. This is all Russell Wilson. He wanted out, and that's why he's a Bronco right now.
So you just answered my next question, Dave. It wasn't Schneider. It wasn't Carroll. It was Russell and his agent that forced this maneuver.
Yeah,
huh?
I mean, look, in the end, they obviously were not seeing eye to eye on a lot of different topics, right? I mean, they had the whole let Russ cook thing going a year ago, 2 years ago, when in the first half of 2020, he was the MVP of the NFL. And then the offense fell apart. I remember it like it was yesterday. They were 6-2. They were riding high. They went to Buffalo. Russell Wilson threw like 17 picks. They got blown out. And Pete Carroll said, that's enough of that. Forget that. We're done. We're going back to my roots, because you guys know Pete Carroll just like us. He's not one to take chances. Pete Carroll does not want to put the ball in the air. Pete Carroll wants to be economical with the passing game, throw it 20, 25 times a game, and run it 50 times a game and play great defense. The problem with the Seahawks right now, Larry, is they've got neither one of those things. They don't have a great running game, and they don't have a great defense, at least not even close to what they had in 2013 with the LOB. So it really didn't fit, if that's what Russell Wilson's looking for, a place where he can blow up the stat sheet, light up the box score, That's not going to happen in Seattle. I guarantee you he had a phone call with Nate Hackett, the new head coach in Denver, before he accepted this deal. And there's not a doubt in my mind, that Nathaniel Hackett told Russell Wilson, you want to cook? You want to get in the kitchen, baby? Come to Denver. We'll take care of you, because they won't.
Yeah. 7-10 this year. Shane Waldron was the first year OC. Did that? I mean, what'd you think of him? What'd you think of the job he did? I mean, they look good down the stretch. I saw him though at Lambeau where they got shut out. I couldn't believe what I was watching.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, in first year, kind of whatever. I mean, yeah, they look good in the second half of the year down the stretch, but they were 3-8 for crying out loud. I mean, the season was over. There was nothing to play for. And look at the teams that they were playing, right? They're playing Chicago. They're playing the Houston Texans, playing a Cardinal team that was nowhere near the same team as they were early in the year after Hopkins got banged up. So I don't put much credit in that. I don't think Shane Waldron really was any great wizard offensively. It's funny because people talk about things like that, like, oh my God, you're getting Shane Waldron, who was with the Rams, or you're getting Sean Desai, and you're getting Clint Hurt, and you're getting Carl Scott, who all work with Vic Fangio. Well, that's fine, but there's one big thing you're not getting. That's Vic Fangio, for God's sakes, right? It's like all these guys that have worked for Pete Carroll, Ken Norton Jr., Dan Quinn, Gus Bradley. Hey, they're all good names, and they're all good dudes, and they've all had some semblance of success, but they're not Pete Carroll, for crying out loud. So I don't want to hear about Shane Waldron with Sean McVay unless he's bringing Sean McVay with him. So far I've been kind of on Shane Waldron. He needs better offensive linemen. He needs a more consistent running game. He needs a tight end. He needs to have a healthy quarterback. And now he needs a quarterback because the only two quarterbacks on the roster are freaking Drew Lock. I almost forgot his name, for crying out loud, and Jacob Eason. So they got nothing right now at quarterback. I mean, for the first time in a decade, the Seahawks don't have a franchise quarterback, and they don't have an elite defense. And they've had one or the other for the past decade. You woke up today and the Hawks had neither one of them.
Well, we'll get to the quarterback in just a second as far as who's next, but what did you think of the Hall coming back? I mean, they get the 5 picks, 2 1s, 2 2s. They get a 5. They sent a 4 out. They get Shelby Harris, who's a 30-year-old defensive lineman, pretty good player, guy who can plug right into the D-line, you would think right away. Locke, I don't know, starter, backup, I'm not sure. I like the tight end, Noah Fant. He's a former first-round pick, probably just coming into his own. That lets them wave goodbye to Gerald Everett. What did you think? And in one of those picks, I think it's going to be top 10, right? So are they going to go? I mean, what did you think of the haul they got that Schneider got in return?
Well, the only thing better than what the Seahawks got from the Broncos is this dope Sonic jacket that I'm wearing right now. I know.
Is that KD's?
I've been watching you eyeball this, baby, ever since we started this thing. Maybe one day you work hard and you can have one of these too, man. No, this is Gus Williams, Dennis Johnson, Fred Brown, Jack Sikma, way back in the day. You're old enough to remember those guys.
Yeah, Sikma had the perm. Sikma even got the perm going.
He sure did. Well, you know what, man? Listen, I thought it was actually pretty impressive because, first of all, just like Ken Griffey Jr. did 20 years ago, Russell Wilson really held the Seahawks' feet to the fire. They were talking to the Commanders. They were talking to Chicago. And apparently the only team that Russell Wilson said yes to was Denver, because that's the team he's playing for. Russell Wilson had a full no-trade clause, man. There's not many dudes in the NFL, Larry, that have a full no-trade clause, and Russell Wilson was one of them. So the fact that he was only going to go to Denver and they still got what they got was actually pretty impressive. Now, of course, the Seahawks did not have to move him. They could have hung on to him for 2 more years and had an unhappy camper on their hands, but that's just not good business, right? It's not good business for the locker room. It's not good business for future free agents and future players. So the minute Russell Wilson wanted out of here, I think the Seahawks tried to accommodate him. And this has been in the works now for a couple of weeks. This relationship, I think, has been deteriorating really rapidly, even more so in the past few months. It began when he went on with Dan Patrick. It began when he went to the Pro Bowl in Orlando a couple years ago and was bitching and moaning about not having enough stars on the football team. So what do? They go out and they get guys like DK Metcalf. They draft him. They re-sign Tyler Lockett. They trade for Jamal Adams. And the guy still isn't happy, for crying out loud. So, yeah, I was actually pretty impressed with what they got, considering I think the entire league knew that Russell Wilson wanted to leave town. And now they have 8 picks in this year's draft, including number 9 overall. I would be very surprised, Larry, if the Seahawks hung on to number 9. That is not John Schneider's way. They have number 9. They have back-to-back picks in the second round, a couple of picks in the third round as well. I think they'll package those 8 picks on draft day and probably either A, turn him into a veteran quarterback, maybe a part of the Deshaun Watson conversation. We can talk about that in a second. Or they'll take those 8 picks and turn them into 30 picks by the time the draft is over. That's how they operate.
Yeah, no, Schneider loves to trade back, and I don't know how you feel. I'm a Schneider fan. I like Schneider. I think he's a good GM. I know he's swung and missed at times. The defensive end, who was supposed to be terrific, he's not.
L.J. Collier, right?
L.J. Collier, and several other picks. I mean, Rashad Penny until late this year didn't look like a very good pick. But one more on Russell, Dave. There was a New York Post report today that guys on his team, Seahawk players, said that he checked out of this season. You're there in that market. Is there credence to that?
I can't speak for his desires this year because nobody was in the locker room, right? Because of COVID. We have not been inside the locker room for 2 years, and we're hoping that changes, obviously, next September. But I do know this, that he wasn't exactly, buddy-buddy with his teammates. I mean, I had one of his ex-teammates on my show 3 weeks ago, and he was sitting with us, and I asked him flat out, you've been with Russell for 9-10 years. How often did you go out with him for a beer or a dinner after practice or after the game? And he said, that many times. Never hung out with a guy. So he was kind of a unique guy. I mean, I've called him weird on the air, and I think he is weird. I think the stuff he puts on social media is cringeworthy. The way he talks at times is cringeworthy. He was all about his brand. He was talking about himself winning the MVP, which is totally different than the way he was when he showed up here, Larry. He would never talk like that. He would never talk about my legacy and I want to win the MVP and I want to win more titles and we need better talent and I got to be protected, blah, 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 blah. And the problem is, Larry, he's doing all of this at the same time as he's not playing very well, right? So, hey, you can put up with it if the guy's an MVP like Aaron Rodgers, a total pain in the ass in Green Bay, obviously. But they put up with it because the guy's a 4-time freaking MVP, and he wins, and he makes the playoffs. I don't know. I just think it was odd the way he switched, and I don't want to blame Sierra for all of it. I mean, he's a big boy. He married her for crying out loud. And I always feel weird bringing wives into the equation unless they're a public figure. And Sierra is a public figure, and the minute he met her, he started acting different. He started walking different. His hair was different. He was talking different. I'm not kidding you, man. You ever seen the movie Napoleon Dynamite back in the day? Remember that? Remember his brother Kip? Remember Kip before and after he met LaFonda? He's this geeky-looking guy. He's online. He's surfing for chicks on the internet, trying to, find time machines or whatever the hell he's doing. And then he meets LaFonda, and all of a sudden he's like, peace out. He's got the do-rag. He's got the Thunderbird medallion. He's talking differently. He's walking differently. That's what happened to Russell Wilson. So it was an absolute transformation, dude. I mean, look at the guy in the first couple years. He was like freaking Urkel. And then he meets Sierra, and he turns into a rock star, and he's about his brand. He's doing all this weird stuff on Twitter. So I don't think that sat well with a lot of people, especially when you consider the fact that he and the team were not playing well. So would I buy it that Russell Wilson wasn't the most popular guy in the Seahawks locker room? Would I buy it that guys rolled their eyes at him? Absolutely. 1,000% that I buy. As far as him checking out, I mean, look, they were 3-8. He was hurt. The team was going nowhere. I don't know, man. He probably knew this was coming this week. He probably knew at some point in time during the year that he was going to be out of here in Seattle. So I don't doubt that story at all.
Who's the next quarterback? I mean, is it Marcus Mariota? Is it Deshaun Watson and his 21 civil lawsuits that are pending? Is it? I love the way Malik Willis threw the ball at Indy. I mean, he just flicks it, and the ball's going 50, 60 yards. I've heard a lot of people up there speculate about the Ole Miss quarterback, Matt Corral. What's your best guess? If you're a gambling man and you got a wager on who's the next starter at quarterback for the Hawks, who you going with?
Yeah. Well, I mean, your guy Colin Kaepernick was taking to Twitter today with videos and showing he still has it, right? And I don't know. I mean, I didn't find that to be a coincidence that all of a sudden there's an availability in Seattle.
He was
Colin
3-16, by the way, Dave. 3-16
Hey,
his last 2 years as an NFL starter. Just remember that.
I'm not saying I want the guy. I'm just saying I thought it was coincidental that he came out today, or was not a coincidence that he came out today with that
Wouldn't
video.
that be something?
And look, I mean, I remember watching him in 2013 when we played you guys in the NFC Championship, and I thought he was a freaking gazelle. I mean, that throw that he made for the touchdown to Anquan Bolden over Earl Thomas's head, where he leaves both feet and then launches the ball in the air. That was incredible. I mean, there's no doubting the athleticism that the guy had, but that was 8-9 years ago, right? I mean, that's forever in the NFL. So I would push that one aside. My sense is that the next starting quarterback for the Seahawks is probably either Drew Lock or a backup on somebody else's roster, or a free agent like a Gardner Minshew, for example, a Marcus Mariota, for example, a player of that ilk. And I think you'll see the Seahawks draft the quarterback. I don't know if it'll be in the first round, but they will definitely take one in this year's draft. And I think, look, the Deshaun Watson thing is intriguing because of two reasons. Number one, it's going to be cleared up apparently one way or the other before the draft, because they're talking about this grand jury meeting tomorrow. And then number two, he's not going back to Houston. So there's going to be a market for him. The Panthers will want to get involved. The Commanders are out now with the Carson Wentz thing.
Right.
There's no doubt that teams like the Seahawks will make calls and they will get involved with Deshaun Watson, but only if he's cleared. I mean, I tend to think that there's certain things that we don't need to make clear to people because they're obvious. Like, I'm on the air yesterday and on Twitter talking about Deshaun Watson, and I'm getting hit up by people that are like, are you aware he's getting accused? Well, yeah, like, we're talking about if he's cleared. I mean,
right.
Right? Like, right now it's a no-go zone. I think everybody gets that. I mean, you got to be a freaking idiot to not understand that the Seahawks are not going to trade for Deshaun Watson. Find a way to get involved in the – hang on just a quick second here. I just sent my wife to voicemail, by the way. I don't do that very often. I did it for you, okay?
Okay.
If he's cleared, I think they'll find a way to get involved with Deshaun Watson. But my gut is that they'll likely have a guy like a Mariota, like a Minshew, like a Drew Lock, and then draft somebody in the third or fourth round.
I appreciate Mrs. Mahler moving aside for the Krug Show podcast.
Lost the audio here. Hang on just a second.
Hey, I got to. Okay, so Bobby Wagner gets cut. 10 years in Seattle.
Now I can't hear a word you're saying. I can hear your mouth moving, but I can't hear a word that's coming out of your mouth. You know what, Larry? Write down the next question on a piece of paper and hold it up for me, and I'll answer it. Because ever since this is my punishment when I send my wife to voicemail, this is God punishing me, and now I can't hear a word that you are saying. So if you can write it down on a piece of paper, I'll be able to hear you. All right.
Oh man. Well, let's see. You still can't hear me. Here. I could read the a lot of people weighing in with their thoughts here, Dave. But Dave still doesn't hear me. Okay, let's see if we can do this.
Hang on just a quick second. Let me do one more thing here.
There we go. Maybe that'll be better. We're talking to Dave Softy Mahler from KJR up in Seattle about the Seahawks and everything going down with the Seahawks.
Sorry, man.
Okay. Well, how do we restart our audio here? Okay. Maybe we might have to end it and restart it again. Hold on. Dave Softy Mahler will end the broadcast